What's up, guys? It is Friday afternoon, and we have a very special treat for you. We have Michael Marquart and Dave Way. How you guys doing?
Good, Gene. How are you?
Doing
Good.
great.
I hope I didn't butcher your last name.
Yeah, you did, but that's okay. You're not the only one that's butchered that name.
Oh my goodness. I'm sorry about this. So how do you say your last name then?
It's Marquart, like a quart of milk.
Gotcha. Okay. So the reason why we have you guys here today is we have some exciting news. Your latest album called Lifelike, right here on Blu-ray, is recorded in Dolby Atmos. And I'm happy to see that Atmos is really starting to take its hold on music. Now we have streaming Atmos on Tidal. We're going to be getting it in Apple next month. Amazon's going to be getting it. Qobuz, and I don't know if Spotify is going to get Atmos, but it probably will eventually.
We'll have to.
Yeah. So before we get into the nitty-gritty of stuff, why did you guys decide to make this record in Atmos? What's the purpose of having it in Atmos that 2-channel couldn't convey to people that are listening to your music?
Well, the last album we did, we had a 5.1 mix that Bob Mountain did, and we were nominated for a Grammy for the Best Immersive Audio Album, and it sounded fantastic. And the Atmos was starting to come online, and so Dave and I got together when we started this new album well, what if we started from the beginning and recorded it with Atmos as the end result and record everything in a 3-dimensional kind of point of view and kind of see how far we can kind of push the envelope and see how good we can make it sound.
Right. So now, Dave, when you did the mix, my understanding is if you look at the credits here, there's a separate mix for 5.1 and there's a separate mix for Atmos. I always thought when you do a mix for Atmos, it could be scaled down to 5.1. You didn't have to do a separate mix for that.
That's true. You can. But what we did in this instance was Bob Clearmountain, who Michael just mentioned, who is, in my opinion, one of the world's absolute greatest mixers of all time, and he kind of invented the idea of a mix engineer. But Bob mixed our last album, the last Bad Think album called The Savior. He mixed it in stereo, but then what Bob does is at the same time he'll do a 5.1 mix. So and we hadn't really even considered much of the 5.1 thing, and then when we heard it, we're like, wow, the music really lends itself well to this because it's a lot of spaciousness to the music, a lot of pads and kind of cool delayed things and stuff, very atmospheric. So it really worked well. And so when we went to do this next album, we still wanted Bob to do his thing because he's the best. But he wasn't equipped to do an Atmos mix, and I had just gotten into it. So so having Bob already had doing the stereo and 5.1 mix, we then basically just started over again on an Atmos version. So they're different. They didn't start from the same place. They're different mixes completely from scratch. The 5.1 and the stereo are actually Bob's, like I said, he does those simultaneously. So those are like the same mix in 2 different formats. Then the Atmos mix is a separate mix completely. And then I did that with Steve Jenowick, who's a good friend of mine and works at Capitol and has done a million Atmos mixes. So since I'm still fairly new to this, he was there to help make sure we didn't go off the rails anywhere. And he's been instrumental in
right
keeping us on track.
So, one thing I learned years ago, this is back when we had DVD audio. I don't know if you remember DVD audio and SCCD.
I still have a couple of discs.
Yeah, I've got a couple hundred actually.
Right. You won't throw them out, will you?
No, I love them.
Yeah.
The interesting thing I found, I was able to interview Elliot Shiner. I'm sure he makes the Eagles, and back in the day when this was first starting out, they were mixing music to have 5 full-range speakers with no subwoofer channel. And I was talking to him. I'm like, that's fine in a studio when you're sitting in the sweet spot and you're in a small environment and you got 5 full-range speakers. But in a home theater environment, it's not practical to have full floor standing speakers, bass all around you. Plus, in most cases, putting a speaker in that location does not give you the best bass response, which is why we always recommend multi-sub bass management. The question I have for you is, when you did these mixes, do you actually have an LFE track that goes to the subwoofer, or are you mixing everything full range for all the channels?
No, we have an LFE, and because I mean, back then, because I did a couple of 5.1 mixes early on, back in the late '90s, early 2000s, and we all know now. Since then, so many more consumer systems, and then just the way things developed. What you talked about with bass management became more normal, and so as a mixer, even when you're working in stereo, you're always you're trying to think of how it's going to end up in the consumer's system, and so that can vary wildly, but we're trying to make it sound as good as possible on all kinds of systems. So having an LFE as part of your playback system, your mixing system, is pretty much standard, I think, these days. Even though you might have full range speakers everywhere else, it's still you're still thinking of it in terms of how the consumer is most likely listening to it.
Yeah, that's good to hear. So, guys, the album is Lifelike. Here's a little bit of the artwork here, and here's Michael kind of chilling with his guitar. I like that picture of you. So you have a slide presentation I want to go over, but I wanted to just show a couple of images here and talk about these real quick. I'm very interested in the fact that you guys use the Newman KU dummy head microphone to do the Atmos mix. Tell me, first of all, this is like a very expensive microphone. I think it's like $8,000 or $9,000, right?
Yep.
What's the purpose of it? Why did you need to use this to do the Atmos mix? What's the advantage of having something like this?
Well, binaural has been around for a long time. So the dummy head is obviously a binaural recording, microphone.
Right.
And it's been around for a long time, and it sounds great. And I've been using binaural in just stereo world for years. So when I first started listening to Atmos, I had the idea that binaural microphones cocould be very useful and translate really well, mainly because we now have direct side speakers, because as we were just talking off backstage a second ago, when you've got binaural, but it's speakers in front of you, it sounds okay, but you're getting not even half of what it's meant to do. But if you've got binaural left and right coming out of speakers that are directly on the sides of your ears, all of a sudden it's 80% of what you're getting in headphones. So I had that thought even before having mixed anything or recorded anything in Atmos. I was just brainstorming on what might work well, and so when we went to record the drums, that picture you showed there was when we were recording bass and drums over at Henson Studios, which is a beautiful big live room. It's one of the great rock and roll rooms in town, certainly. And so I had the Neumann head basically in the middle of the room, kind of looking at the drums. And we also had some other binaural and we had an Sennheiser Ambio mic and a Calrec sound field,
and the Barnaby, I think, didn't we?
The Barnaby, which isn't binaural, but it's I don't know how to describe it. But it's a stereo, realistic stereo microphone. Yeah. So and plus we just messed around with regular stereo miking, where you not only stereo but also just having room mics all around the room. So there were like room mics in the far corners of the room and four corners. So we really went into it trying to capture all the space in the room, and the mics were at different heights, and so when it came time to mix, we just played around with where to put all these room mics. and the binaural was basically kind of for the most part in the side speakers.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
the drum setup was really complicated. Dave had a lot to deal with because we had 3 drum sets set up at the same time.
Oh,
There
wow.
was a tight little kit in one of the smaller rooms for the drier sounds, and then the big one in the big room. And then we had a kit kind of directly across from him where he's sitting right there, which was kind of like a whatever, banging on cases and different kind of percussion type kits and all that stuff. And when we used this stuff, we would maybe cut to have the bridge be the tight kit in the small ISO room. So a lot of them were kind of interacted, and it wasn't just one kit. It was to kind of capture that different space and a different ambience.
Yeah,
Right.
and I noticed.
The song. Yeah.
I noticed in the background that's Jeremy Stacy on drums, right?
Oh, Jeremy. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
he's done work with King Crimson. He was right on side with Gavin. Gavin Harrison's one of my favorite drummers of all time. So
Right on.
Yeah,
I followed their work. Yeah, that was awesome. I mean, you got a good drummer there on your album for
He's a
sure.
great drummer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great guy too.
All the musicians on the album are great musicians. But yeah, Jeremy and Jeremy, you can't tell from that picture. What you're seeing in that picture is maybe about a fifth of the drums that Jeremy brought. It was. I've never seen so many drums in one room in my life. There must have been 300 drums in the room.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. It was crazy. So we had all different kinds of sounds and setups. As Michael was saying, we had like kind of 3 discrete setups, and then we would switch them out and change them up and tune them differently or whatever from song to song. It was fun. It was just like kid in candy store kind of stuff.
It was a blast.
Yeah. So, Michael, I will get into the slide presentation in a minute. I just kind of wanted to know your background. I think I read somewhere that you used to be into fusion music. I'm assuming like fusion jazz, like Brand X, Return to Forever. Is that the kind of music that was your influence?
Well, yeah. I listened to a lot of that stuff when I was young. I listened to a lot of Yes and Emerson, Lake and Palmer, and King Crimson. And, I learned, that Tank drum solo on the Tarkus album, note for note,
Wow.
So that's what I kind of cut my teeth on. And then when I went to college, I was in this fusion jazz band that had, a lot was like Return to Forever and Brand X and, that kind of stuff. So yeah, that's how I cut my teeth.
Yeah, I liked hearing that because you don't hear people talking about fusion jazz too much these days, and prog rock always has a cloud over it. You almost like I was talking to Steven Wilson a couple of years ago. I did an interview with him, and I basically said his music is prog rock. He's like, no, don't call me that. You go, that's the kiss of death. Unfortunately,
right, yeah.
you got to be more diverse, I guess.
Yeah, I have no problems with that word. I grew up on that stuff too, so.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I mean, back in the day, we were both from Long Island, ELP would be Madison Square Garden, they would sell out. Genesis. Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, that was like the golden age of music in my opinion.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
King
Crimson, that was my favorite. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. I wanted to just show you guys, I want to let the audience know that I got to listen to this record or this album just before we were live streaming. I went and I listened to the whole thing in Atmos. Here's my setup. I just built this in the Audioholics Smart House. I'm using Paradigm speakers, JL Audio in-wall subwoofers, 13-inch subs. I've got a 5.2.4 setup in here. And let me tell you something. I love the way this mix was done because it's not done gimmicky. If you think back in the early days of 5.1 with DTS, and they would have people singing behind you, and then it would go to the front. It was just so in your face that it would turn people off that are purists about music. And I always thought the better way to do it was to create the ambience or create the sound of the stage through extra speakers. And that's exactly what you did in this album. I heard the entire studio. I heard the ambience that was going on in the recording, and it just transported me into the recording studios, what I felt when I was listening to this. And I'm assuming that's the goal you guys went for when you did this mix.
Absolutely.
Yeah, great. I like hearing that because you're exactly right. That's what we did. And there's times for kind of gimmicky stuff where you just want a little spice and stuff, but you know,
Right.
if you overdo it, it's just like too much, you know, salt or garlic in your you know, your meal. So you know, you just want to try and get the ratio just right, you know.
You know, it shouldn't be work to listen to it. I mean, you know, demanding attention and, you know, things bouncing around and everything. It should be such a natural experience that you never want to take your headphones off. You're just enveloped in this space and you just love being there. I mean, that's kind of the point of view that Dave and I took.
Well, and I'll tell you this much: when I was testing this out, because I was putting it on, I don't have a dedicated Blu-ray player in that room. I have an Xbox One S, which has an Ultra HD Blu-ray built in, and I had to download the driver to play it. When I first put it on, I didn't realize it was in DTS 5.1, and then it was being upmixed by the Dolby Upmixer. I had to go and enable the setting in the Blu-ray player so that it would natively decode in the receiver. When I switched over to Atmos, my wife was in the kitchen making breakfast. She's like, "Oh my God, it sounds so different now." And she wasn't even in the envelopment of sound where all the speakers were, but she could tell. And you do get that immersive bubble of sound if you're in the right area of the room. And I love that. That's the magic of Atmos, and that's what's transforming for music. It's exciting. To me, it's an exciting time to be into music now, because now we have the technology to go beyond 2-channel and to make it digestible by consumers. Because let's face it, with COVID and people aren't going to the movies as much now, they're investing in home theaters. They're putting in Atmos. I mean, they're in one form or another, whether it's a sound bar or they're doing discrete speakers, they have that Atmos ability now. And now the software is becoming available.
Exactly.
The one thing I would suggest in the future on these Blu-rays, which would be really great, Michael, is include artwork that changes per song. Like have a slideshow of stuff. That would be awesome, because now it becomes a point where your TV's on and you could look at pictures of the recording studio, just concept based on the songs. I mean, that would be
a good idea, Gene.
Yeah, love that.
I like it.
Awesome. I'm glad I could offer you that suggestion.
About this being an exciting time, because I haven't been, you know, I've been making records for 30 years, and I've been through previous versions of surround sound, and this is the first one that I'm truly excited about. And I you know, as soon as I got into it, as soon as I heard it a couple of times, I was like, this is different. This is different than any of the previous versions. And because I'm reacting to it differently, you know, my body's reacting to it differently. And I got to tell you, I bring people up here all the time, or, you know, there's people coming into the studio, and I'll, you know, they see the speakers on the ceiling and stuff, and they want to know, and they want to hear something, and I'll play them, you know, 4 or 5 things. And I love watching the reactions of people as they, you know, as they really just I can see them getting goosebumps, you know, because it just is a different experience. And as soon as I'm done playing a couple of songs, the first thing is like, how do I get this? I can't go back to stereo after this. I want this. What do I have to do? And they start asking me about, you know, title and you know, because for a lot of people, they don't know anything. They never even heard of the term Atmos, you know.
Sure.
So I love turning people onto it, and like I said, the reaction is always practically instantly, how do I get this?
So guys, if you want to experience this after we're done with this live stream, we have a link in the description of this video where you could download a test track, one of the songs from this album in Atmos. You could stream it to your receiver. That link is going to be active only for the next couple of days. So I would recommend you guys go check it out now. And there's direct links down below where you can buy the album. You can either buy the Blu-ray, the physical media, or you could buy the download rights to stream the entire thing to your receiver or to whatever platform you're using. Got a super chat here from Mad Wookie. Appreciate that. I just wanted to put this comment up real quick. Michael looks like one of those dudes off the Tombstone. Awesome. It's the hat, man. You could be the next Indiana Jones.
Yeah, I got the hat for it, right?
Right. So I want to get into the slide presentation so it gives people a little background about this record and about your background and what's all involved. I'm going to share my screen here. Do you guys see that?
I see it.
Yep.
Okay. If you see it, then everybody sees it. So here we are, Lifelike, making a rock album in Dolby Atmos. A bad think. So what's up with this artwork? Is this at a beach or something, or what's the concept here?
Well, it's actually a painting, and I thought it was perfect, and so I bought this painting and had the me kind of in the middle was kind of photoshopped a little bit because originally it was still a little stick guy. So they photoshopped, so it looks kind of like me with my hat and all that stuff. But I just thought it was really a cool painting and would make a great album cover.
Nice, I like it. Yeah, I thought it was at a beach, to be honest with you. I just didn't really think about it too much. It's very relaxing when I look at that. It's peaceful to me. So you guys did this in 24-bit, 96 kilohertz. Do you think there's an advantage to having that high resolution over just regular sampling 44K 16-bit for the 2-channel? Is there something that really benefits if you're just doing a 2-channel mix on this?
I think so. I mean, I've done the last 4 albums I think I've done have been 96K. I think the fidelity is really important to me, and
right.
to sound as good as it can possibly. 192 I think is a little overkill. But,
right.
I don't know what everyone else does. Dave can answer that one, but I do all my stuff at 96K.
Yeah, that's awesome.
96. There's I think there's a noticeable improvement at 96K. It's not the kind of difference that you experience with, I mean, obviously, speakers and even cables can actually make a bigger difference than you'll hear in the difference between 48 and 96. But, and then obviously the difference in Atmos and the multi-channel thing is even bigger. In Atmos, when it comes to the Atmos version, it's at 48K. We have to bring it down because Atmos doesn't do 96. So, but at the end of the day, you start with the highest that is feasible. Like 192 is just impossible. You can't have 192 for multi-tracks. These sessions are huge. We have
it's too much bandwidth.
Yeah, exactly. It's unmanageable. So you need something that's manageable and sounds as good as it can. So and you start there, and then you make sacrifices as it goes down the chain. To at the end of the day, when somebody's listening on their iPhone, the difference between 96 and 48 is even smaller. Though I have done tests. They have these tests and stuff where you can hear, and I tell you, I can hear the difference on a phone. Like I can pick out the difference between 44 an MP3 and 96 on just listening on an iPhone speaker. And you'd be surprised what you can actually hear on an iPhone speaker. But because you're not listening necessarily for bandwidth, you're listening for artifacts, and you can hear the artifacts still.
Gotcha.
So, but anyway,
tales.
Yeah, things like that. There's just certain qualities that you hear, but at the end of the day, as it's all, the music is the most important thing. It's like you can have 96K great fidelity on some music that I just don't like, and I don't care. It doesn't.
Yeah, I mean the recording process is.
It's the music.
Amen, brother.
Connects. Yeah.
Yep, I gotcha. So here we are, Michael. You're the singer, songwriter, producer, and guitarist. Now, didn't you start off with drums? I thought I read you were a drummer for Flock of Seagulls back in the '80s or something like that.
Yeah, I did start out as a drummer, and I did one record with those guys. I think it was in the '90s, and I did one tour with them. And absolutely, I started as a drummer, and I played guitar. I've been playing guitar since I was about 16. I started playing drums when I was 5, really young.
Right.
Had written some songs in some of the bands that I was in, but the drummer writing songs is usually the guitar players and singers and stuff don't really kind of are really down for that. So it's like fighting to get your music kind of played and accepted and recorded and all that stuff. And
unless you're Phil Collins, then you can make.
It's been a long
John Henley,
kind of process. So
yeah,
but absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. So let's see what else we got here. Okay, so here's the personnel of people behind it. As we said, Jeremy Stacy on drums. He's well-established drummer. I'm not too familiar with these other guys. If you want to talk a little bit about the other people behind this album.
Go ahead, Dave.
Sean Hurley, he's a great bass player. Does a lot of sessions here in Los Angeles. He plays with John Mayer and just a bunch of people. He's made a ton of records, and I've been working with him for quite a few years. And he's great. Phil Chanel, who plays the keyboards on this stuff. Phil, I've known for a long time. Where he's kind of a mad scientist. He's got his own studio. He's done a lot of work with Tori Amos, and does a lot of string arrangements for her and for other people. I met him through there was a TV show called Sons of Anarchy that I did the music for, mixed and recorded a lot of the music for that, and Phil was a big part of the music for that show. We kind of hit it off, and he's like I said, a mad scientist. So basically, after we've recorded all the bass, drums, and guitars and vocals and stuff, we'll send Phil the stems of that, and then he just goes to town at his studio and sends us back files. We talk back and forth about some of the parts and things like that, but he just does his thing at his place and sends it back to us. Mm-hmm. and it works great. And it's just every track you open up is just another sonic masterpiece. He spends a lot of time dialing in his sounds.
He does.
Jeremy, as you know from King Crimson, Jeremy Stacy, fantastic drummer. I've known him for quite a few years, done a lot of sessions with him. Kirk Helly, who this is the first time I've kind of worked with Kirk as just a guitar player. He's a fantastic producer and composer, and that's how I've worked. I've mixed stuff for him, and I've only met him. It's been about 4 or 5 years that I've known Kirk, and brought him in because he does a lot of film stuff, and he has a kind of cinematic kind of quality to his playing that I thought would work really well alongside Fernando Perdomo, who's the other guitar player who plays on this. And Fernando's very much a kind of proggy, just a rock, meat and potatoes kind of guy. And Kirk is a bit more on the outside. Like there's this, which song is it, Michael, that has the speaker, the cymbal speaker?
Is that Sign of the Times?
Yeah, I can't remember, but there's this one song where Kirk, and when Kirk comes up for the session, he'll bring just his whole car full of pedals and instruments and stuff. And one of the things he brought in was a speaker cabinet that is actually a cymbal, a drum cymbal. Huh. And it's got a little contact mic on it and a little amplifier, and you plug your guitar into this, you plug your amp into this speaker cabinet, and basically the sound comes out of the cymbal, and then you mic the cymbal, and it's just got this clanging, reverberant, ambient kind of sound to it. It's hard to describe.
I've never heard anything like it. I mean, it was.
I was like, oh, this is fantastic. Well, I wanted to buy one, and I couldn't even find one to buy. They're very rare. But so that's the kind of thing that Kirk brings to the table, and I love that. And Jacob also is another fantastic guitar player who has more of a rock sensibility to certain things. So between these three guitar players, and Michael's stuff, we got lots of great, cool,
guitar
tones. Yeah. And then there are a couple of songs that have some saxophones on them where Dave Rollicke came up with some parts and he overdubbed his stuff at his place also.
Gotcha.
So, but that's pretty much, I think, everybody on the album.
Yeah.
Cool. So let's see what we got here. Grammy nominee for Best Immersive Album. That's what you were talking about, The Savior. That was in 5. Was that in DTS 5.1? DTS HD?
I don't know, Dave. Was it?
You know what? I'd have to go back and look, but you know, what it ends up in, it's when we're mixing it, we're not really considering too much of the codecs of, you know, it's going to translate how it translates.
Right.
But Bob did the stereo and the 5.1 mix on those.
And then
Right.
96, 24, 96.
And then Bob Ludwig did the mastering on those two as well.
Oh, cool. So now Windmark Recording, Michael, that was originally your studio, right? And then you sold it to, what was the name of it? Neptunes, right?
Yep.
Nice. Yeah, it's a beautiful studio. I think I saw one of your YouTube videos on that. Very impressive that you built something like that. It's awesome.
Oh, well, thank you. Yeah, it was fun. And, you know, those guys were in there all the time, and they asked me if they could buy it.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
So it's pretty active even to this day?
Well, actually, no, it's not. Those guys sold it, and then the new Windmark is in Santa Monica right now. And,
okay.
So that studio, my daughter's running the show over there, and pretty much what we do over there is very top rap, pop, you know, Kanye West, Drake,
Right.
Harry, you know, it's that kind of stuff is what Windmark does out here in Los Angeles. So, and that's cranking away, doing well.
So curious, with those guys being over there and you doing your Atmos thing, and now Tidal and Apple wanting to do everything immersive, are these guys also mixing like for Atmos? These mainstream guys like Kanye West and Coldplay. I mean, does it look like the mainstream artists are also embracing this now going forward because of how streaming is changing?
Yeah,
I think they are.
I agree, and I think you're going to see, you know, you'll see a good amount of new releases now being, you know, because it started where for the most part you're seeing catalog, you know, big classic catalog albums released in Atmos, and those were kind of the first things that Universal Music got behind. But you know, because that's, you know, people at first want to hear something that they know and hear it in this new format, you know, so you get to hear whatever the Dark Side of the Moon or Pink Floyd or Kind of Blue,
Yep.
You know, Beatles, whatever. But you know, now from what I understand, some of the labels are now have a policy of doing Atmos versions of everything coming out, you know, from this point forward. So I think
that's just amazing to hear. I mean, a year ago, I never would have thought this would be the case.
Yeah, I think one of the reasons why I, you know, because at first when I first started having gone into some of the previous surround formats and not really seeing them connect and get the support, you know, from the labels and stuff, I could tell that this one was going to be different, and you know, we took a bit of a you know, a gamble, I guess, just but you know, in setting up for this. But I was a firm believer in it, and I knew that, you know, it's gonna. I have a feeling it's gonna catch on. I mean,
it definitely looks like it is.
The momentum in the last 6 months, from my perspective, has been unbelievable. I get so many calls now for Atmos stuff.
Wow.
Yeah.
And speaking of which, here's some bullet points about you. So you worked with artists like Stevie Wonder, Gwen Stefani, Ringo, Eric Clapton. You got some under your belt.
Yep. Yeah. There's you know, been doing it for 30 years, and I've been fortunate to work with a lot of my heroes. With, you know, you got 3 of them right there. Not that Gwen's not a hero, but it wasn't, you know, she wasn't around when I was a kid. But yeah, I've been very fortunate. I've worked with a lot of great artists. And
So you know what? One of my favorite discs from Eric Clapton, the sound quality of it is, even though it's on DVD, the sound quality in DTS is just absolutely amazing. Have you ever heard his sessions for Robert J?
Oh, the Robert Johnson stuff.
Yeah.
I heard it when it first came out. I don't know if I've returned to that since then, but yeah, I remember that being a very honest recording. Yeah.
Oh, it's amazing. It has Steve Gadd on drums, Nathan East on bass. I mean, just a good personnel, plus just the way they mic'd that whole recording. And I ran it through the Dolby Up mixer, and it's even better. So, I mean, that's the thing people may not realize at this time, is even if you have a 2-channel or a 5-channel mix and it's not in Atmos, the Dolby Up mixer will allow you to take advantage of those high channels, and it usually gives you really good results. I've gotten tricked before thinking I was listening to something in native Atmos when I was just listening to it and listening to it up mixed. So it really depends on the recording.
Great.
So about the album: immersive rock, lyric driven, designed for Atmos, inspired and progression from previous albums, Michael's creative process. So what do you categorize your music as, Michael?
It's kind of difficult. I mean, it's kind of it's got a country kind of flair to it.
Mm-hmm.
It's so, I mean, there's like banjos and there's acoustic guitars on everything. I do acoustic guitars. That's how the song is start, and that's how it's built on. So it has a kind of folky start to it, and depending on where the song goes, it can go into a classical mode and like a rock thing, or so. It's really, I can't really categorize it as one style or the other. It kind of blends into a lot of them at different times.
So you kind of when I was listening to it, I got kind of the vibes of like a Crosby, Stills and Nash kind of sound. I don't know if you would agree with that or not, but that's
absolutely. I want to be able to, sit down and play the song with my guitar and sing it to you and have it all, you kind of get it. You don't need, some of my other albums have been such huge productions that I really wanted to just make it simple and easy to enjoy, and with good hooks and great recordings and a great mix, and make it as easy to listen to without making the listener work hard to listen to it.
Yeah, exactly. So here's some more pictures and now which studio was this done at?
That's Bob Claremountain's room on the left, and then the other one is Henson.
Oh, okay. Wow, looks really cool. What are those wood panels up on the ceiling? Is that for diffusion?
Yes.
Nice. And they're actually really deep, so they're effective diffusers. You see a lot of acoustic treatments where they put diffusion on the ceiling and they're like 1 or 2 inches deep. I'm like, that's not really doing a whole lot for diffusing.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm sure Bob had somebody come in there and design that, and exactly how he wanted it. So,
gotcha. So what's this? There's a documentary on the Blu-ray.
Yes.
Oh no, this is. Okay. I haven't looked at any of the bonus features yet.
It is the.
Oh, did we lose Michael?
Yeah, I think so.
Can you hear me?
Yes, you're back.
Oh, okay. The full documentary is on the Blu-ray.
Oh man, I got to check that out. I did not know that was there. That's awesome. Now, if you download this content from your website, do you get the documentary there too, or you just go to YouTube for that?
Yeah, you can get it on YouTube, and so it's there for everyone to.
Okay, guys, don't forget I put this PowerPoint on our Patreon channel. So if you want to follow along when you're watching this, if it's not live, go to patreon.com/audioholics. This full PowerPoint is there, and these links are active, so you can go and pursue and look at this on your own leisure. Okay, so the documentary, Atmos recorder process should no longer be esoteric. I love that. I love that you put that statement there, because for years, anything that's audiophile has always been esoteric and shunned upon by the masses. Now we're here with Atmos, and it's getting mainstream approval, and it's a whole different ball game.
Yeah, it's about time.
Yeah, for sure. All right. So creative trust, the work relationship with who's Derek?
Derek Bort is the guy that does my music videos, and
Oh, okay.
he's an incredible movie director, and I've known him for years, and we've done, I don't know, maybe 8 or 9 music videos. So he's him and I are always on the same page, and the videos are so great, and I love doing them. And he's and he's the reason they're so good. So
Yeah,
great.
your videos do look, they're very well produced. I was looking at them the other day on YouTube. I was like, man, you put a lot of effort into this stuff. So
Just like my music. I mean, it's, I try to do it as good as I possibly can.
yeah.
And, and then the next album we try to do it better.
I love the Dave Matthews reference. I'm a big fan of his work, and I have his. I don't know if it's in Atmos. No, it's in True HD. The Radio City Music Hall where he's with Tim Reynolds. It's just the two of them playing guitar. That's a fabulous recording. If you guys have not heard that, check it out.
Okay, good.
All right, so here's the documentary trailer that you could. This is the one that's on YouTube, but it's also on Vivo.
Yes.
Cool. Music videos. How many videos Derek Borte has collaborated on? Cool. Okay. So this is just a lot of extras you guys could check out behind the scenes. So which is the track that we're allowing people to download now? Is it the Too Far Gone one?
Yeah, it's either Too Far Gone or Stay On. I'm not sure which one it is.
Okay. Yeah, I recommend. Honestly, I spent about 45 minutes just listening to this, and I just was originally going to sit down and just kind of dump through it. And then I found myself actually listening to the entire album with my wife just because it was so enjoyable. It was the ambience in it was just so captivating. Like I didn't want to get up. I just wanted to kind of chill, maybe get pour myself a glass of scotch or something and just kind of enjoy the moment.
Awesome, man. I love hearing that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. I got to give you guys kudos, man. Great mix, great sound quality, just cool music, enjoyable. Nothing like is going to glare at you or anything like that. It's great to see this. Now, people are asking, I have a question here about, is your album going to be available on Tidal? And we were talking about that. And I think you said that it is. It's already available there.
Yeah,
okay.
There. Yep.
So Tidal's a bit kludgy right now. It's hard to find all the Atmos content. I noticed
their search engine is not so great.
Well, they've been sold too, I think. So, they're probably going through some ownership changes, and I don't know what they're doing under the hood wise, but that might have.
I did see it on, because they release new Atmos stuff every week pretty much. And I did see it a couple, when the album came out a couple of weeks ago. I did see it on the main page there, so hopefully it's not too hard to find.
Yeah, I'm going to search it out. It's a bit, the thing that bothers me about Tidal is when you go and you put on a track or an album, it doesn't default to Tidal. Like they need to fix that. It doesn't default to Atmos. If it senses that you have an Atmos system, it should automatically go to that, just like it goes to the high resolution recording.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
it's supposed to do that. I don't know if it always does.
This might just be growing pains. They're one of the first to implement Atmos streaming. You got to give them credit for that.
Yeah, hey, that's the only way I've been able to hear all this other stuff in titles up until this week.
Yeah. Now it's important. It's important to note that if you listen to it in Tidal, it's through Dolby Digital Plus. It's not the lossless True HD that you get optically on a Blu-ray or when you download it from your website. So if you guys really want the highest fidelity, it's great to check it out on Tidal and listen to it on Tidal, but ultimately if you have a really kick-ass system in your house and you want to hear the very best fidelity, this is the way to go, Lifelike. And I've got the links down below in the description. You could download or you could buy the album. And so anything else you guys want to add about the record that we haven't talked about?
No, I think we covered most of it, Dave, unless there's something you want to add.
No, happy to talk about the album and Atmos, and it's like you said, Gene, this is an exciting time for music for sure. So, I get excited every day I get to put something up in Atmos.
Yeah, right. I remember the first time I heard an Atmos mix, and and I thought to myself, this could change everything, because it just made me, 40 years of listening to music and everything. And all of a sudden I was excited to hear music again. And it's been a long time since I've been excited about, hearing music, the years of recording it and listening and all that stuff. And I go, if they can get the software and the hardware straight, and people can get this experience with their headphones and, stream the stuff, this could change everything for the music business and the quality. To make better records and to make it get back on that trail and see how good we can make it. So it was really kind of eye-opening thing for me. So it was awesome.
One thing I noticed too is when you have a good recording like this that's multi-channel and it's in Atmos, it kind of takes us back to listening to the entire album as opposed to just skipping around tracks, right? Because it just captivates you. Yeah,
that's the way it should be.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm curious, what kind of speaker layout did you guys listen to or mix this on? Like, what do you think? What's the minimum someone needs at home? Do you think it's a 5.2.2 system or 5.1.2 system where you have
5.1.2, I guess, is the minimum I would say. And then obviously you can go as big as you want from there. A lot of it obviously depends on the size of the room you're in.
Sure.
But I think honestly anything that's going to give you the height and the real immersive feeling that you'll get outside of a typical 5.1 setup is a game changer, and so it's start small if budget is a concern, and then just kind of keep building on it, because that's one of the nice things is you can just add speakers.
Yeah, for sure.
But even some of the, I haven't heard them yet, but some of these sound bars and things that are relatively, inexpensive for people to just get used to, getting off of iPads and laptops, and really that's been hard as a mixer, somebody who's making records, to know that it's going to be listened to on such crappy speakers at the end, on the consumer's end. So anything that's going to make people think about how they're listening to it, and go for something that's really going to give them an experience that is elevated, I'm all for it.
Right.
I listened to the Sony or the Sennheiser Ambio soundbar. It's
that's actually good.
It was shocked how good it was. I got to hear it in a recording studio, and I couldn't believe how good it sounded. The thing is pretty big. It's not one of these small profile things, but I was really impressed. And I guess that guy is like $2,500 or something. So
yeah. No, soundbars have really matured now, and you can get passive soundbars. So if you can't put an LCR in front of you because of space issues, you can get customized passive soundbars that go right under the TV, so they're the same width cut to the TV. They're passive, so you hook them up to your receiver to power them, and then you put the speakers in the ceiling or your surround speakers. And it's really, some of them are as good as discrete LCRs, depending on which ones you get. So we have a question about the guitars. What guitars was Michael using on the album? I saw a presentation that he had rare guitar collection. Tell us about your guitar collection.
It's it is a sickness, and I have it. All the guitars are old, beautiful. I've used, let's see, a 58 Burst, 1950 Broadcaster, a 54 Strat, a 58 335, some really old acoustics, and I have a custom. Martin built me a custom acoustic completely to my specs that I absolutely love, and I use on absolutely every recording. I have a Gibson double neck from '61 in black that they only made two, and they don't even know where the other one is.
Wow.
So I use all these guitars all the time. They're like tools, it's like I need a screwdriver for this one, so I know exactly which guitar to go and get the sound that I want. So yeah, it's an important part of my sound are the guitars I have.
So the double neck, is that 2 guitars or is one of them a bass?
No, it's actually it's a 6-string on the bottom, and it's a hollow body arch top, and the top one is a high strung 6. So
Oh,
it's
okay.
like an octave. It's an octave up. I mean, somebody modified it and turned it into a mandolin, but Gibson restored it back to the original configuration that this guy had custom ordered it in the first place, and it's got PAF pickups in it. And holy man, has this thing got some output on it. I mean, it's incredible.
Wow. See, now here's a suggestion. If you could have put these pictures in while we're listening to the music, that would add perspective to your music for sure.
It's Gene. Well, we're going to do it for the next one.
We love looking at pictures of beautiful guitars. It's,
right. It's
Yeah.
Who doesn't like looking at beautiful guitars?
So your sickness with guitars is my sickness with speakers. So
I get it.
I'm hearing basically that all future recordings that you go to do are pretty much going to be in Atmos. Is that a fair assessment to say?
Yeah. We're getting ready to start the new one.
Yep.
Oh, nice. Really cool. I'm glad to hear that. Well, guys, I recommend, if you can, get the optical Blu-ray disc for the best fidelity possible. We have links in the description below. You could also download this and stream it to your device if you don't have an optical Blu-ray player. There's a free test track that you could try out. It's available until I think the 23rd. So you can go and listen to see if you like the music, you like the fidelity of the mix, and then you could go and purchase afterwards. Michael, Dave, it was awesome having you here. I really appreciate getting your perspective and hearing boots on the ground, people actually making these recordings and how the industry is changing and how it's adopting Atmos for music. It's not just for movies anymore. We're going to be getting more music content. We've got streaming services that are allowing us to download this music and listen to it. It's a great time to be a musician, and it's a great time to be a listener and appreciative audiophile kind of guy that wants to hear beyond just 2 channels. It's awesome.
Well, awesome, Gene. Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, it was awesome. I hope we have you on the next one too. So hopefully when you come out with the next album, we could do the same thing and repeat this and just keep this going. I love it.
I look forward to that.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, guys. Again, check out the record. Don't forget about our Patreon channel at patreon.com/audioholics. We have the PowerPoint there. You could check it out there. And until next time, my friends, keep listening.